Yo, how's it going? Off the cuff type of video. It's mostly a couple of things that have been going through my mind last couple of days working, doing this whole back and forth, and instead of just keeping it for my own little recorder, because I do take notes like that in my own phone recorder. Cool app, smart recorder. Get it. I might as well just share it at the same time. Because who knows? Someone else could be having the same issue. Now, sorry for this kind of cam. I was kind of wanting you guys to be a bit more up close and personal. Yet, if you do find this not as good as the upper cam, well, you might as well tell me. And if you also have suggestions, setups on how to put this on this leaning table, go for it. Because right now I'm just investigating a couple of possibilities through like sheer posted attempts, but I haven't had much time or knowledge of what tools to set up in order to set up this camera. Usually a tripod could kind of go, but this is a different kind of case. Anyhow, so the whole issue I've had for the last couple of days is mostly dealing with 2D and 3D in the aspect of course, drawing. I mean, let's see what I can show you. I did a character lineup that was done. I did work on a redesign for some characters, rebalancing certain proportions and such. But when I'm working in 3D, there's a point where I do not know if you can see it clearly. Let me just move the lamp. No. That won't work. Nope, it's not going to rebalance that light. Okay, so when I'm working in or I'm trying to put a character in 3 dimension, of course, recently I told myself, okay, well, I'm going to need to use the grid all the time because that's how I can do placement much easier. And even when I did thumbnails, placement was a very critical issue. Where do I have it? I have a couple of thumbnails here and there. I'm definitely loving this book or sketchbook in that regards where I can just sketch. But again, there's the whole use of the grid to have perspective make sense, to have one thing relate to another and make sense in front of the camera. But throughout this whole process or this whole experiment, a couple of other things I've noticed in myself is when I get into this perspective mode, when I get into using the grid, I tend to make things more complex than they may need to be. And that's kind of driven me a tad bit crazy from time to time because there are times like with this drawing where I have to force my I have to force my way through the drawing, and of course I pick this up and complete the rest digitally. But there's always this feeling of, okay, well, um, the fact that I'm abusing of the paper like hell. I mean, this Canson paper, it's not like that good old animation paper I had for the Instagram YouTube thing, but this paper can't really take this much punishment or the punishment I'm bringing. And then two, it's starting to hurt my wrist because I'm pushing and pushing and pushing. So I've had this battle between trying to make things really complex, interesting in 3 dimensions, but then the design aspect of it all kind of died out. Um, and it was kind of weird. I don't know what's up with my mindset, but there's often time where I'm going to start drawing something and I'm going to add volume to it, then think about what the character is, who the character is, and what the character's various wares would feel like, which is good. The problem is when I do it, like especially late night from time to time, because I reserve that for my own time and freelancing during the day, I tend to overcomplicate things and just waste a lot of, let's say, attempts doing things in 3 dimensions instead of concentrating on the design aspect, which is in 2D. So here I'm reworking some of my characters for Extra Stage Comic, especially Alyssa, um, who is now semi-Japanese, semi-African. I said Africano-Japanese because story, but I found it to be a much more interesting design, and working through that, I kind of went online, looked at the shapes, looked like how the different kind of combination I could come up with and what would feel right and what I pictured in my mind. So took inspiration from Angel from King of Fighters 2002, slash King of Fighters 2000, 2001, 2002, and mixed it a bit of Elena from Street Fighter Third Strike, and kind of came up with a new look for her. And I just realized sometimes you just got to keep it simple. If it doesn't work when you're trying to draw with volume, then you keep it in 2D, because to a certain degree that when it comes to animation, that's how you're going to animate most of the time, right? You're not going to go with the extremely complex 3D movements that you'll see in those AAA AAA Disney movies. Wow. But you're gonna go with 2D. You're gonna keep it on a plane. And I also noticed that acting wise, this helps me a lot more. It's kind of odd to draw and talk at the same time, so please bear with me. Let's see. Do I wanna? Okay, there we go. So there's this whole aspect, and like I've been thinking multiple times about what's been going on in my own, what do I want to do. And oftentimes, like, I would go on Tumblr and look at all the artists I've watched and go through all of their work, and getting into this weird obsessive reference obsession where there's a lot of things I want to do, a lot of things that inspire me, but I need to focus on what drives me, what gets me going, what is who I am. It's this constant looking for what you want and what attracts you. So at one point I just told myself, okay, well, I like references, but I'm not going to obsessively look for them or look through them. Instead, if something gets my eye during a day, I'm gonna save that picture, then draw it during the afternoon to see what precisely do I like about this, and then how can I integrate it into my work. And from that point on, it was a bit more, a bit more at ease, where I would, how do you say, I would capture moves and then see, okay, is this going to blend in what I want to do? Does this blend in with my current set piece of, let's say, keys, in a sense, or skills? And then, can I animate this? And that is the most important question I need to ask myself. Can I animate it? Because that's what I want to do. And that's the feeling I want to get. Like, when you animate, you want to make it feel alive. You want to make it lifelike. You want to add some life to it. So that's where there's times where you want to have a lot of cool painting moves, cool, let's say, perspective shots, kind of like in One Punch Man, like they have exaggerated perspective. I fucking love that. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to figure out, am I going to be able to use that for my own work, and does this fit with my drive? And after multiple times, I just kind of said, okay, you know what? I'll just go with the flow. If I like something, I'll redraw it and see what I like about it. There was a specific drawing I saw online from Instagram that had great hair tech. Great hair tech, man. This is talking. Let's get that fighting game talk in there, Terrific hair tech. Could alpha counter the shit out of mine. And then I told myself, okay, what do I like about that hair tech? And what I liked was how sleek, how soft the stroke was, giving this aspect of sleek hair, like very light and feathered strokes, but as well as having, how do you say, an iconic shape to it all, and not simply having the hair flow here and there. So I'm slowly trying to integrate that into my moveset, because I always liked slicked and flowing hair, That's how it feels in my mind when animating a character. But at the same time, I needed that image to push me in that right direction or in that desired direction, which is what I'm currently practicing after emulating what I saw from the other artist. Like there's always going to be phases like that in my life, so it seems, and who knows. I might poke it again at the fact that for some reason, and it's not only me, like I'm pretty sure a lot of people or many people have that feeling. We're like billions of artists out there where that feeling where you can easily look at a technique. Oh, let me raise that up for you guys. You can look at a technique and you can kind of emulate it, and you feel like you're doing the jury thing where you're having the clone eye and going, I can see your moves. Well, that's how it feels. For a while, I was studying Alvin Lee's work, and I liked his perspective. I still want to go back and try to acquire this aspect of perspective a bit more. But at the end of the line, I can emulate as much as I want. I can pick up moves as much as I want. The basic or the problem is, or I guess the truth is, I need to study the original material. So when it comes to Alvin Lee, I'm gonna have to pick up Hogarth again, Burn Hogarth's book, very very technical book, and read through it because it has the original text that he used in order to push his aspect of perspective. And I'm gonna need to get down to that again when studying Hogarth, and that's a thing my mentor always says. You gotta watch out because he'll will make your drawing stiff. I mean, let me see if I can pick up Hogarth over here. I have two of his book, Dynamic Anatomy, and the whole compilation of all of it, including costumes, hands, feet, head, different. So this book, very very technical. I mean, this guy makes drawing a science. It's kind of like George Bridgman, another book I have, but I am not really liking Bridgman yet. It is stuff to read and then understand in the method that he is placing. And the chapter I need to get down with after reading the entire book is this, getting the perspective in hand, understanding the triangle method for different limbs. And it all sounds also technical, okay? But it all makes sense. And as much as I can just go out and wildly get good results, what I want is be able to do it consciously or unconsciously, or ingrain that technique in my head to a point where I'll be able to do it unconsciously. And that's why I can study Alvin Lee all I want, but if I don't go to the original source and like straight up study, put these hours into reading, I'll never get that. And that's the importance of reading. So it's a lot of things to think about. Okay, it's seriously a lot of things to think about, and kind of gets me to reflect back on my progression when it came to artwork. It seems that after college, I stopped reading. I guess that drive was kind of lost at one point, or priority changed, focus changed. So I need to get back to that when it comes to these techniques. Rereading Andrew Loomis. You might still find the free version of his PDF, but he's gone. They've republished his book. So if you get Andrew Loomis, some of the first book I picked up after the How to Draw Manga, I was sent an Andrew Loomis book, and that, wow, enlightened me on a lot of concepts. I just wasn't that much of the academic type in that regards. I was doing the life drawing every night, back then, but I wasn't into academic reading in that sense. Let's see. Oh, and this is Ninja. Ninja is this, that player you see in a server that will never talk to you but just appear, maybe help you from side to side or time to time, and then just disappear. and then you might find that same player in another server, but you might be enemies, and then there's barely any interaction. You're like, what's this player's game? Well, that's Ninja. I'm gonna have a lot of fun with Extra Stage. Oh, and that kind of comes into conflict with the animation, but I'll set time for both. Right now, freelancing hasn't really gone well. Not at all. I have to play a certain popularity game, which I'm not that good at that. And when I mean popularity game, I mean advertising yourself, constantly being uploading stuff, constantly being active and poking recruiters. Oh, sorry for that. But yeah, I've been kind of bad at that, and so far, the finances are kind of hurting. So I need to double up on regular job overtime or find a new job when it comes to that. Like sticking to the testing for some more time, enough to build the finances, get that overtime money, and then we'll see what happens. Instead of dumping the finances into art directly, I'll take a side path, a detour, which is gonna be saving up to attend to outer Montreal conventions, saving up to get my own domain name. Like right now, the Wix website, I keep modifying it, but I know there are stuff I can do for the webcomic when it comes to acquiring my own domain name. And let's see. Let me switch this up. Okay. When it comes to acquiring my own domain name, there's a lot of things I can do. So it's going to be putting the funds into these kind of endeavors so that it'll help me in the long run, because I got to think about the long game ahead, which is the tough part, isn't it? Long game ahead, meaning as much as I want this Cintiq, okay, as much as I want the Cintiq, there's no way I'm getting it now. Absolutely no way. It's not in the budget plan, it's not in the budget availabilities, and screw it, for now. I can work with the Surface Pro 3. Cintiq is not that big of a difference. I can make some little tweaks, and I think I've spoken about the Surface Pro 3 before. There's a couple of things where you put your hand on the surface and it'll make a dot. And of course, when you draw, you're gonna put a finger on the surface, and that's gonna make a dot. And if that dot happens in an area of a drawing, then you're gonna get pissed, really pissed. Thank God for the undo button, but if you don't notice it and you go a couple steps ahead, it makes a harsh edit. At the same time, no shortcuts on the surface, so a couple of small little disadvantages, but it's manageable. At least I get to draw on screen, and I can push some of my 2D hand-drawn stuff even further. Okay, now to work on another character. Again, keeping 2D, keeping with the basic 2D form. I'm not going full 3D yet. There's going to be a time for this, but not yet. And this is where I kind of have to figure out a tad bit more things about this character, because basically I've never really drawn this character with eyes. I've always hidden his eyes behind sunglasses. This character is gonna be a lot of fun. I just wish I had more. I guess I just wish I had more time to develop and work on these characters in the past, and now I'm reaching volume 5 out of 7 or 8 maximum, and already I know I'm gonna have to say goodbye to these characters, but there's so much play I can have with these characters. And basically, when I say play, I mean these characters are actors, there's so much dynamic stuff I can have them interact with each other. This is why there are a lot of people I like on Tumblr, because I'll see them constantly having these miniature arguments between their own characters, and you get to see how these actors get to play off one another. You develop attitude, you develop how a character would respond to another one, if a character would find that other character annoying or such thing. And I really wish I had time for that, or more time for that. I guess it's all about priority, okay? It's understanding what you want, what's your long term goal, what's your long term project, and then getting invested and deep within that project. And so far, I haven't been able to get to that point yet. I've done a bit here and there, but it's not up to that level. It's not up to the optimal level that I would want. Like to be able to have a character from one of my series interact with, let's say, any other character, or a character from another one of my series, or a video game characters, just to have these random encounters and seeing how one actor would play off another would be, it's great character development. And I guess you can also pick that up when you draw your character. um, and I guess I don't want to generalize, but I had that happen quite often when I draw these characters, especially late at night. I need to stop that. Late at night is it's bad for the sleep, and you want to get that sleep. But who knows? During a weekend, okay, let's not be hasty here. During a weekend, I'd start drawing these characters and then just going, okay, well, what did this character have hair like this? I need to change that hair. I know I want to change it, but I can't do it while talking. And then, okay, hair builds character. What does that say about the character? And then, what is this character, in a quotation mark? What's his stereotype? For this one, you guys remember Leo from Lunar 2? Exactly. Punk ass just wants justice, and goes through expressive lengths to get it, but at the same time, this character is a big otaku. First modeled them after Travis Touchdown, but now I'm mixing in a bit of Yakuza into it, mostly for the code and attitude. But this character is obsessed with justice. And the funny thing, and something I really wanted to play upon the first time I launched this comic, but the interest kind of died down, was this character's main group, of which he is the leader, but not the main boss, which is kind of ironic. Main boss would be her, but we'll find out why. The whole thing would be this character and the entire group, even though there's a couple of members missing, they hate furries. They really hate furries. So that's their entire stint. Like their motto or their group name is the Anti-Furry Squad. And that all started out, the whole idea started because back when I was at this place called Intervoid, which was an interesting place, but at the same time I reflect back upon the original character battle circles as kind of like a waste of time back then. But interestingly, in that environment, a lot of people hated furries. So it was kind of a funny thing to say or to see because you're all artists. And then, okay, if you get to the dark side of the internet, you kind of understand this particular reason why the environment was that way. But anyway, either way, so it was a fun thing to go because my character was spawned off another original character of mine, and it would cause a reason for them to get into conflict. Even though my main character wouldn't know because he's kind of a human transformed because of an incident happening or spoken about in Volume 3. So basically, this character has no bloody clue what they're on about, and they're all for justice against anthropomorphic animals in a sense, and going through great length for it. Now, the thing I wanted to play upon about was their ridiculous backstory as to why they hate anthropomorphic characters this much. And what was it? That's going to be explained in the story. This I can't explain it yet. Him, I can. Basically, his whole thing was as a kid, he was bullied a lot. And then he went through the Terry Bogard journey of training and going to various dojos. Problem is, all those dojos were owned by anthropomorphic masters that would just kick his ass, like dojo masters would do. Like, they would just kick your ass until you learn. Yet, this character being sort of like an exaggeration of otakus, or just the a mix of otakus, but exaggeration of this person that just wants to learn but doesn't want to sink in the time into it, grew a hate for anthropomorphic animals. So that's why his quest for justice is against these particular types of people, even though they are working for a corporation that does some pretty fucked up things. More of that in the next volumes. When it came to Lisa, I wanted her backstory to be all about how her previous flirtations and boyfriends kind of got dumped, and kind of dumped her and went for these sexy anthropomorphic characters. Like, just ludicrously putting this hate. Imagine those 1 out of 18 billion incidents that could happen reuniting this group together. Like, completely nuts. But that's the whole premise of these. So Lisa got twisted and grew this hate for these wenches stealing her love affairs, her boyfriend, and at one point she just snapped. And that's what gives her this like twisted look in volume 4, this constantly angry look, her hate, her online hate, because she goes into games online, big fan of Call of Duty by the way, and just spews a lot of hate and even shoots her monitor if she loses, or if she gets if her team loses because they weren't doing shit properly. Also tying with her representation of, going into a bit too hardcore when it comes to gaming or competition. Let's see. When it comes to Penny T, similar type of vein, but when it comes to record label and gang activities, of course, anthropomorphic gangster gangs. Oh shit! Just finding the most ludicrous reason to give these characters a reason to bunch up together and grow their hate. But at the same time, the more you reflect upon it, and the more that they grow while encountering my main character, and you know, taking beatings or losing or dodging out of hell or having null encounters. I wish I had time to have these instances where they would just go and say like, okay, well, wait a second, huh? Are we going to another point? Are we going too far with this kind of stuff? Are we generalizing everyone and then having these back and forth plays? But again, I didn't have enough time, and this is where I'm gonna have to think. This is where I'm gonna have to poke the people from Patreon about the bonus stories, because a lot of these ideas I'm, presenting to you, I've noted down, and I kind of just need to jot out those bonus stories. And of course, I am doing a terrible job at drawing this character. I want to rethink his hair. Let's see, what can I go for? I guess this is basically it. What I kind of wanted to get to. Let me just redesign Penny. Let's see. Again, keeping 2D, because that's design. That's the whole design aspect. And also, I don't know, how do I say that? Never put yourself in an impossible situation. And that at the same time is a double-edged sword. But what I mean is, you can always redesign, you can always better your designs, you can always mix and match between techniques in order to acquire your designs, okay? Never stay stuck around one technique. You learn multiple techniques, and it's basically the flow between each and every of them. And as much as I'm using this, like the basics right now, at any point I'll be able to switch between technique depending on what I want. And at the end of the day, it's what you want. You got to know what you want, and never stay stuck on one thing because of what you want. If you're working, like right now I'm working for design, okay, keeping it simple, and I'm not gonna go crazy with the 3D, the volume. I'm not gonna go too crazy with volume. I just want to reconfirm design. But if I want to get perspective and I have in my head that I want to do perspective, then I'll start laying out the grid and then doing things academically with the stick figurine, the circles, the balls. Of course, first you start with the gesture, and then mix and match. Add a stick figure, maybe add the volume, and then let's see where that goes. Techniques are different, and the more you learn, the more you practice, and the more you'll be able to understand how you'll apply them to your various needs. Okay, it's a lot to learn, it's a lot to get through, but hey, there are no absolutes. And hell, even if I stumbled or fumble a bit while doing freelancing this year, 2016 is coming, right? And I'll have the right to say, well, it's because it's 2016 that I've learned new techniques. Who knows? That could be an interesting New Year's Eve video. The wish for the next year. Hell, this year I wanted to get the fuck out of QA. But it is not to be. It is not that simple. I guess round 2 is understanding, okay, how do I play the game? Again, the popularity game, contacting, networking. How do I play that game to finally get out of this mess? And never give up. If one thing doesn't work at one point, don't double down. Back off, understand how it didn't work, and form another game plan. Better late than never, right? Just don't put yourself in a no holds barred situation where you can't get out. Alright, I'm kind of thrilled with this redesign, mostly because I haven't drawn this Character Science Volume 2! Whoa! I am messing up this online webcomic thing, but hey, you mess up, you learn stuff, and then you get back on the horse with some new tech. Especially when it comes to layout and designs, something I kind of picked up was just, again, keeping it simple and not trying to be too fancy. And I don't know if you guys saw the banner I posted on Instagram. That was just keeping it simple. Very, very simple, and I might have a drawing video of that up on Patreon. Mostly when it comes to the drawing process and the coloring of the specific drawing, not the Photoshop I did afterward. But it's all simple stuff, not trying to be too complex. And it works for what it works, or it works for what it was made. And that's it, that's all, and keeping an objective. What do you want out of it? What do you want? Okay, I guess that's about it for what I got for you. If I come up upon these thoughts, these random brain farts, brain farts, again, nose is getting congestion. I guess I have to do more cleaning as well, or rest. But yes, if I find, or if I land upon more of these thoughts, I'll share it with you. Quick videos, I'll share it with you, and hey, we can have a discussion going. Like, feel free to talk about what you found worked for you,
what would be interesting to look at, what would be interesting to look for. Like, let's get some discussion going, right? And of course, don't take this as an absolute. Never, never do. Just if you learn something from it, you do. If you don't, maybe it's not for you. All right, we're not all the same. We're not all homogenized. We're not all your shields. No, okay, that didn't even match. But that's it. You know, as artists, we're different. We will find common points, but we're not all the same, and it's good that way because we'll be able to learn from each other and then move on. All right, I'm out. Enough talking. God damn, I don't know what's gonna happen with Extra Stage. Well, I know what's gonna happen. I'm working on Volume 5, guys. Yet, the main objective or the extra objective for next year is gonna be making it a bit more active online. Having scheduled posting dates on my website, and then maybe getting a better interface. And then when the domain name happens, woo, Comic Press. Anyhow, kept you guys long enough. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all your comments and support. Hey, feel free to check out the Instagram if you want to see some random stuff or derp stuff I'll be posting. And yeah, let's have some discussion. All right, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. All right. In the meantime, see you later. And again, if you want to have a different camera angle, tell me. I'd be all down for putting it back on top, but we won't see it as clear as this. If you have other techniques, link me to these videos for camera placement techniques. I'll be happy to check it out. Or I'll see if I can bust down my PC and do some direct recording. Anyway, later guys.